My name is Jason Medlock, and you're watching Expansion of Consciousness, where we explore the powers of the subconscious mind, learn to reprogram the mind for success using quantum hypnosis, teaching mental strategies for athletes, coaches, and business professionals that produce peak performance. Also using meditation and mindfulness to build more focus. Let's get to it right now. I want to welcome you to the Transform Your Mindset Bootcamp with the fascination with the human mind. The fascination with consciousness is what drives you. You cannot miss the fact that mental training techniques roll right in the dynamic of the actual training process. Wow. Good afternoon and welcome to the Mental Game Plan. I'm your host, Jason Medlock, and this is where we explore the depths of mental toughness and the strategies that forge champions in sports and life. Today's episode promises to be nothing short of inspiring as we're joined by a special guest whose life story is a testament to the transformative power of mental fortitude and disciplined training. I want you guys to understand who Nico Verresen is, a former professional athlete turned peak mindset psychologist whose journey from rigorous discipline of martial arts to the nuanced field of performance psychology, which encapsulates the essence of our podcast. Not only has Nico achieved personal success as a Belgian, Benelux, European, and vice world champion in Muay Thai, but he has also channeled his wealth of experience into coaching others to reach their pinnacle of performance. Nico's coaching portfolio is impressive, guys. He has prepared legends and world champions across various disciplines. He's worked alongside multiple-time K1 Max legend Andy Stower and UFC champion Ronda Rousey, providing insight that have propelled these athletes to global recognition. His expertise has also guided Tiffany Van Soorts, Lawrence Van Thor, Charles Bisset, and Alde Lawant, and Franz van der Stucken to clinch world titles in their respective fields, demonstrating the universal applicability of his mental training techniques. Beyond the realm of sports, Nico's influence extends into the corporate world, where he coached high-performing professionals and CEOs, turning their challenges into catalysts for success. His clients have been featured on platforms like BBC, ESPN, Eurosport, NASDAQ, Forbes, and Inc., highlighting the broad impact of Nico's work. In today's episode, Nico would delve into the philosophy of integrating mental and physical training, share his breakthrough strategies with top athletes and leaders, and reveal how anyone can leverage their inner strength for peak performance. And without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring on Nico.
Hey Jason, I don't know what is going on, but my camera fell off all of a sudden.
That's okay. You go ahead and we'll wait on you to get ready, but I'll keep talking. And I am so glad to have you on the show. You've been able to do a number of wonderful things with the martial arts community, with some of the top people you've worked with. And it's just exciting to have you here. And we're excited and we're glad. So, one of the things I want to start with, but basically I want to say it's an honor to have you on the Mental Game Plan. And, we're just really eager to learn from your journey and your expertise. But you have a champion's mindset, Nico. You transitioned from an elite athlete to a psychologist. You work with legends like Andy Stower and Ronda Rousey, to say the least. How did these experiences shape your approach to building a championship mindset in your clients?
Well, I had the privilege to train with and help as a training partner, co-prepare Ronda Rousey for a Strike Force fight, and I was in Andy Sauer's team. So I was training with a bunch of legends, Peter Arts, a lot of other legends in the Muay Thai and the kickboxing world. Uh, but I never made any pictures because they're my buddies. It's really interesting. But what I could learn from that is the ability to hyper focus. But what I also learned was the contrast with what I did. I had the Rocky mindset. No matter hard I got hit, I kept on training like a maniac, literally like a maniac. Physically, when almost nobody could break me besides myself, because I never really gave my body enough proper rest. My testosterone levels were low. I detached my retina 7 times. I broke my arms 3 times because I just didn't give a damn,
Hmm.
you know. And
Right.
so I had the potential to become a multiple world champion, but I did not reach that level because I was over extending myself time and time again. After a heavy KO, instead of resting at least 3 months, 2 weeks later I was slamming the bag. So while I'm an intelligent guy, while I was a psychologist, while I knew the theory of the performance psychology, the fighter in me was dumb and was not listening to the people that were trying to help him. So I learned that to be able to get to the absolute top, you have to install a regimen that gives you the proper recuperation. You know, like top athletes do not just get trained to train hard. They get paid to train hard, but they actually get paid to rest. People don't realize.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Resting is a huge part of an athlete's recovery, but also it can increase his performance by 10, 20%. Just rest alone. And you work with such iconic figures. It just must be incredibly enriching. Just understanding the mental framework of champions like Sauer and Rousey that can really offer insights into cultivating resilience and peak performance in others, and including, just from your experiences, when you're training people. And,
Yeah.
um, you know,
Well, that's really interesting. It were very extreme things. I helped prepare Tiffany Van Soest for her Glory World title. Like she was really on point. Like it was easy to work with such champions. Because it was more like a physical slash mental training, but more the physical part. And it's you know once they get dialed in, they're dialed in.
you're right.
Same, but it's different. Like for example, when back in the day with Andy, when he was in off season, off after fights, he gained 20 kilos. I don't understand who he did that. Like 40 pounds, gained it, and then in preparation he became like a monk again. So it was like this. You could see this natural peak and release way of thing. It's like, and I see the same thing in a lot of entrepreneurs or a lot of business owners. It is not a marathon. People say it's a marathon. It's not a marathon. It is a bunch of sprints. When you have a new project, you have to sprint. And so the problem is that most people then keep on sprinting and then they burn out or they overtrain. That's what I did. I was always sprinting.
Right. I
You
like that
know?
analogy. I love that
Yeah,
analogy you're giving.
yeah.
Nico, it just seems like you understand, when you're working with athletes, or whether it be when you were competing, or whether you're working with an executive, showing people how to perform under pressure. And your coaching has prepared athletes for world title across many disciplines, including kickboxing and the FIA World Cup race with car drivers. Can you tell us what common thread you found in preparing athletes across diverse fields, and particularly for high pressure competitions?
Well, I only worked with people that are in individual games where the pressure was high. Martial arts, jiu-jitsu, people try to choke you or break your arm. Muay
Yes.
Thai, MMA, same thing. And then we have the race car driving, which is even more bananas. Like the speed that they run with. Like Lawrence, he had a crash where he broke his his
Mm,
hip gasket, and 3 4 months later he was back on the track winning. That is a mindset that is absolutely unique. Now, what I've noticed of a common thread is that when you really get to the absolute top, you want stress. You don't want an easy challenge. You don't want a guy, an opponent, or you don't want a field of competition that's not challenging enough. Because people always say, "I want to just flow." Well, yeah, but you forget one thing. In order to be able to get to flow, you have to struggle first. If you
yes.
don't push your boundaries too much, you don't trigger your nervous system to activate those neural pathways, to activate those pathways that are forcing you to go beyond what you're now in, where you disappear into the moment, into the performance. Flow is really important, but flow is a consequence of consistent daily struggle
Yes. Yes.
and relaxation. So you have like this the flow cycle, First you struggle, you push your boundaries. You don't know if you're gonna be able to do it. You really in regards to sport, you put yourself to very challenging training routines that are really challenging, that are really breaking your patterns. Then you rest. And then the next time very often you get into flow because you triggered your nervous system. Your nervous system when you rest is is consolidating, is like printing in, cementing in those changes in your nervous system, and then you flow. And then you have to recuperate it again because the next step up is again triggering that struggle. And I think the biggest lesson people can learn is that stress is not bad. We've been told an absolute lie. We have been told an absolute lie. Stress is there to help you. I want you to think about your life. The best moments in your life, were they without stress?
Right. And probably not, and I think that stress should just be recognized. And then once you can recognize it, you choose how you'll handle it. You choose the way you handle stress, just like anxiety. It's how you respond. And I think that's where the training comes in. The response to these trigger mechanisms. But it's fascinating to hear how mental training principles transcend the boundaries of sports. I mean, I know your work across various disciplines really underscores the universal application of mindset strategies, for peak performance. I mean, just working with all these different types of athletes and performers, it's pretty amazing to me.
Well, I always say whether you are facing a, a world champion in the ring, whether you're facing a board of directors that are trying to take your company from you, or that you're trying to sell $1 million contract to, or whether you face the most beautiful partner that excites you so much in the bed, it all comes down to staying cool in your brain while your body is fully riled up and activated. That's an interesting. It's not only my personal experience. When I had somebody that I, on paper could win easily against, I underperformed, but gave me somebody that on paper I had no chance against. I performed myself. It was really, really interesting. I love stress. I miss stress. That's the one thing that I really miss, and I would love to, you know, feature on some on some places where I can do some public speaking because I think it might give me a little bit of the same feeling of rising or falling, breaking or winning. That's something and I also see it with a lot of athletes. That transfer was very hard for me. It was very difficult to make that transfer
Yeah.
because your entire identity And that, again, that sprint, you're preparing for that fight, for 6 to 9 weeks, you're going crazy, and then you take off, you just do nothing, you relax, you recuperate. Or with me, it was half a week, which is a bit stupid. I should have taken a bit longer, but that way of working works a lot for a lot of people like us, a lot of top athletes, and a
And
lot of entrepreneurs.
I got really excited reading your bio and just some of the techniques you've used. But I got super excited when I knew that you had a holistic coaching approach, because that's the way I teach. I teach more with holistic modalities within my mindset program. And but given your background in relationship counseling and quality of life research, how do you incorporate these elements into coaching high performers in sports and businesses to ensure they thrive professionally and even
Well, there are,
personally?
yeah. So my program has three main things. The first thing is, okay, how to make stress your superpower. It's really
Mhm.
important. How can you leverage it, and how can you not start to stress about stress? Like, there's a big difference between primary stress and secondary stress. For me, we have primary stress. There's a challenge, our opponent, and the insecurities, the unpredictabilities of that aspect. But then we have our thoughts and all our ideas and our thinking, and that becomes secondary. We start to think about, we start to dramatize, we start to ruminate and really overthink everything. That's secondary stress. Now, we can learn a lot from ancient philosophers of the Greeks, the Stoics. They said, not don't feel. No, they said, okay, look at what the primary function of this emotion is. Use it, take your lessons from it, and then let go what you cannot control, and focus on the task at hand. you know so that's the first part. I think that's a very important part. So you have a bunch of techniques. I use hypnosis a lot, but
Yes.
not with everybody. Here I use hypnosis with people who have high hypnotizability, people that have very low hypnotizability, very logical athletes. Well, there we have to take another approach. There we can use similar techniques, but they have to use it more as a personal mental practice, because they have to use their logic in order to activate that. Unless I have a few hours, then I can do some magic, but that's something else. But for most of them, they are very busy, so they have to do it themselves. They have to do short little repetitions where it's literally just mental practice, mental practice. I have some clients, I snap my fingers, they feel fantastic. It's like there's like an orgasmic wave of pleasure going to their body, and then tomorrow they perform like an absolute best in the world. Some people have to really talk with them a lot in order to make them understand why it could help.
Mm.
So, but it has to do with personalities. But that then I can't go into that. We're talking 3 hours longer. But then the second part is, well, okay, how can we now get the most out of our time? Because when I work with athletes, or when I work with entrepreneurs or executives, the problem is that for sure in the States there's an idea more is better. Oh, I was in the room 7 o'clock, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Yeah, yeah, man. But like, what is the quality of your work? Are you dumb or something? And then you're gonna see, and then their focus is just not there. People are calling them all the time, like they're having conversations left and right. And so, and they're burned out because they put so much work, but they don't get anything done. While if you, for example, say, okay, I'm gonna block off this time, phone away, no Wi-Fi, I'm just gonna focus on this task, or I'm just gonna start calling, or whatever your thing is, or I'm just gonna train. Imagine you come into a gym and you're on your phone all the time. I would throw them out of my gym. I can tell you that. I have a few guys like it. Go. You're here to train on time. On time in Europe is 5 minutes in front. And when I was teaching in Bali MMA, it was hard, because It's Bali, Hey, chill, peace. Yeah, no, not peace. You're a professional. If you're an amateur, you can come later. I don't care. But if you're pro, respect yourself. Respect our time. It's a mindset. How are you gonna show up? It's like how are you gonna use your time? How are you gonna, prioritize what will get the most effect? Some people you can get them on the path. They need that. Other people they need much more personal time, visualization. Other guys or women they need much less stimulation. I need a lot of stimulation. I'm a slow grower, but that's also why I was a physical beast. Like my nervous system needs a lot of stimulation. I need a high impulse. I need high intensity. That's why I love this sport so much. But
Right.
other people have a very sensitive situation. They're afraid to get hit. I loved getting hit. I was a little bit crazy. That's why I had so much, damage. On the whole, I can be very lucky with what I put my body through. I mean, it's actually not so bad.
Right. I
But
was
then when
looking
you
at.
have
Oh, I'm sorry.
very,
Go ahead, Nico.
yeah, very scared fighters, well, they're evading all the time. Very often they can fight much longer because they have that natural sharpness in their mind. So you have different kind of people you have to approach differently. But that's the second part, and then the third part, and that's my most favorite. It's about how can you create an environment whereby peak performance can be sustained for a long time, no matter how much work you need. And all the research shows to having a happy marriage or a happy family situation. We are not lone. We are not lone tigers. We are wolves. We need each other to rise to the top. I absolutely am 100% convinced of that. And so you have those two things, like how can you relate? How can you and the important thing in this thing is how can you truly be yourself? How can you be honest and authentic while staying connected? It's easy to connect as everybody thinks the same thing, but then very often you get bored, there's no attraction, like it just you're just living next to each other.
Mm,
But it's just in those conflicts, in the moments that you do not agree, that you notice, oh wow, this is not me. We're not on us. It's like very often when people think about intimacy, they think it happens like this. Say you're beer and this woman that you or man you like, and you meet her, and he is or she is wine. I say, okay, we come to each other. I do some beer with my wine, you do some wine with your beer, and you keep on doing it until you become an us. The problem is that now you have a mixture that nobody wants to drink because you're practically making love to yourself. And what the problem is, you're over involved. So every little move of the other one you feel, and it gets you off of your balance. Nobody's in balance. And what happens? And very often people feel they are disconnected because they're disconnected from themselves. A lot of the therapy, relationship therapy, talks about attachment theory. Yeah, that's very well researched, but they forget another thing. We have the need for belonging, for closeness, but we have a just as powerful need for self determination.
mm,
That's the freedom.
yes.
And what is an adult relationship? An adult relationship is a big one. You say, I hate that you want this. I hate that you want this, but we stay connected. We often have this, we go apart and we're both bleeding and hurting, and then we go to the next one and do the same thing. So the difference, what you can do is you can learn to stand on your own 2 feet, but that's scary because you're used to leaning on each other. That's what you learned from before, from your family or from your earlier relationships. So then when you learn to stand on your own 2 feet, you need to learn to soothe your own emotions.
Hmm.
You learn to face yourself instead of facing your partner. The words, if you have a challenge with your partner, very often it's a reflection of something inside, of a misalignment.
Well,
And
from
then
your.
when you both, yeah, so the way you both learn how to stand here, then what you very often people come to a moment that there's no passion no more. I know, no, we don't know each other. You're all constantly evolving, but why don't you think? Do you think we lost connection because there's nothing to talk about? Well, there's a lot to talk about, but you just choose not to talk about those things. There's a lot of communication, and the communication is shut up about it. We are not talking about this. And so when you learn to do that, to talk about those elephants in the room, in that moment, then staying together is not a need anymore. You don't need each other anymore, which is scary, but then only then you can choose each other. You can feel wanted. You can feel desired. Then there's this space where this passion can rise again. And then you can come together and come closer to yourself into this kind of pulsating mood. And when this happens, this is the goal in my eyes. Then you get support, but you know that you get support because they want to give it to you, not because they feel you need it, because they are responsible for your well-being. No, they give it because they are solid in themselves and they want to help you rise. That's a whole other kind of feeling. It's definitely it looks exactly the same, but in the experience, it's a world of difference. So that's the three things that I work on, and that's how. And but I will say your intimate relationship is the fast track for personal growth, because if you're facing the mother of your children and you have an extreme fight and you can have the balls or well the guts to stay connected while you're having this conflict, stay connected with your love, stay connected with your shared humanity. Well, you can do that. Well, then you can do it with all kind of stakeholders in your company that are creating a lot of problems. You can do it with the media that are trying to paint a horrible picture of you. You can do it with a business partner that is a bit of a psychopath and always tries to manipulate everything to get everything. No matter what, if you can do that with the people that mean the most to you, you can do it everywhere. Then it's much more. And then we come to one of the biggest causes of burnout, that is relational. it's
So
it's yeah.
let
And
me,
that's
because I got a lot of questions I want to get to
yes,
with you,
yes.
but it just seems that your approach to coaching and blending the physical training with the psychological resilience and personal well-being, I just think it's amazing on how you can flow all of these things together to help the client, whether they be athlete, whether they be a couple or a business person. It's just awesome. But in the same breath, you're teaching them how to overcome issues and overcome setbacks. From your journey, what kind of advice do you offer professional athletes or just professionals or your average everyday people that are facing setbacks or challenges, drawn from your own personal experience, and high caliber individuals that you've trained?
Dare to sit in your shit. you know it's that's when I look also when I talk with all my therapeutic friends that work in therapy with even with schizophrenics and with people that are chronically depressed with more clinical problems. It's all, excuse me, what is this? All comes down to one thing: experiential avoidance. What is that? Well, you try to avoid a certain experience. People that are addicted, they try to avoid a certain experience. People that have schizophrenia, it's an extreme form, but very often they create those illusions in their brains, those images, those sounds, as an extreme way to not face the fact that they have a life that's horrible. Very often, depression, you have two kinds of depression. You have one kind of depression that is, well, you have many kinds, but you have one kind of depression. In my eyes, the cause is you have a horrible life. Once you start to get your life together, that's going to help. Then you have the people that have something else, that they have everything on the surface, but in depth, they do not fully enjoy it, because they are never there. They're always in their head thinking about 1,000 things, and so I really believe that if you want to overcome a challenge, one of the most powerful ways to do it is to sit in that intensity. Like we have such an our culture is so afraid of intense emotions.
Mm.
But intense emotions are a golden gift. It's your body that's trying to talk to you. It's saying, come on, pay attention. This is important to you. Like when you think about it, when you stress, ask yourself, why do I care? That's something beautiful, Can. That's like a window into what is important to you. And then you say, hey, wait a minute. That's actually not so important to me. Hmm.
Mm.
You see it a lot with very people that work like a maniac, and then they have their referrals and this and that. And then they're like, is this where I gave everything up for? I lost my friends. I have a wound in or a wound or a man in my bed that literally just wants to suck up my tit. Like and you see this often. You know, people say it's lonely at the top. Well, yeah, then you do it wrong. Because you forgot those intimate, those deep relationships. And people say, man, you can't combine the two. First, I need to get my business on top, and then I will get the relationships. And I understand that. For sure, a lot of us men, we are hyper focusing. The problem is that then you, for example, get 40 or 50, and now you're ready to find that love of your life. But
Right.
on a relational level, you're still a teenager because you just were having some superficial sexual experiences, and then now you have to learn that and then you get faced with people that have been practicing this for years.
Mhm.
Now there's nothing wrong with it if you realize that, if you can work on those necessary skills while you are doing the rest of your life, when you're doing your sport, when you're focusing on your business, you can mitigate all those things, but you have to be aware of it. That's a whole other mindset. It's a whole other way of relating you know
Right. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk
yeah.
about some, the training of some of the top world champions. When you were preparing athletes like Tiffany Van Sword or Charles Bissett, when you were training or with a group, for their world titles, can you talk to us about what specific mental training techniques did you find were most effective in enhancing their performance?
Well, we'll talk about Charles. Charles, or well, it has to do. Well, the first thing is, of course, learning, teaching them that stress is good. Like
Mm.
learning them to feel like, oh wow, wait a minute, yeah, actually, really going into their history and really start to think, okay, first of all, my most horrible moments of failure, of moments of deep pain. Okay, let's analyze this.
Right.
How has this helped me later in life? What kind of pains, what are the positive consequences of those pains? Perhaps not directly, but perhaps also how did it make me grow as a person? When you do that, you're already learning, teaching yourself, you're preparing yourself for what if something horrible happens. You can be a fat, you can be winning, and you can run, you can get knocked out.
Yeah.
You can be driving in your Formula 2 car, racing fantastically, and then somebody behind you does a mistake and rams you and you go against the wall. If you really go through your entire life and you really look at all the very painful, say the 10 most painful moments of your life, and you can do that, what you're doing, you are priming your brain to look for the positive in the pain, in the negative. You're looking for post stress, or when it's really extreme, post traumatic growth. People never talk about it. People will say, oh, we're traumatized, this and that. And yes, when you have PTSD, it needs to get handled. But it's been thrown around as an excuse for not doing the things that you can do. Like a lot of people, everybody's traumatized. That's such bullshit. It's absolutely nonsense. Everybody had, or almost everybody had traumatic experiences and traumatic brain mapping. That's different. Like you have certain lessons. But if you have PTSD, your life is in shambles. Like a lot of people say, oh, we all have PTSD. No, Yes, we carry with us painful lessons, and perhaps there's certain limits on our beliefs and certain limits on our actions that have been learned in that traumatic experience, but it's different from PTSD. You know, people try
Right.
to throw it labels as you're a psychopath, you're a narcissist. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about. It's so much more intense. But okay, so what I would like to do is that everybody really starts to prepare their mind for when shit goes down. That's one thing. Okay, go to your past. Okay, now how can you prepare to the future? Well, what we can do is we people say yes. You have to imagine how you're gonna win, how you do everything perfectly. Yes, that works. That works. But what if something unexpected happens? Ah, oi. So there, I do not agree with the people from the secret to say if you imagine everything's gonna become perfect. No, you want to prepare your mind to handle when things go difficult. When you really prepare your mind, when you prepare in visualization, when you prepare in simulation trainings, where you are imitating a fight, for example, where you're taking, for example, when you're fighting somebody that has a real good left hook, you're gonna get hit with it. The chance that you don't get hit with it is minuscule. You're gonna train to avoid that, but how are we gonna handle that? For example, when you would fight Alex Pereira, you know you're gonna get hit with that left hook and it's a killer hook. Okay, so you plan for that. You really do certain technique, a bunch of techniques or strategies in order not to get hit. That's the thing. Ideally, you don't get hit because it's gonna fuck you up. But he's so well timed. He knows it. He looks for it. He creates openings. He waits very patiently, and then he breaks in. Okay, then you have to know how can I react when this happens. For example, what you can do is then you can do like, for example, 15 turns and do a right overhand. You know, like happened, like Alex Pereira got knocked out by by the other champion. I forgot the name. you know, and
Wow.
I'm very convinced that he prepared for that. And one thing that you can do is you need to turn around so you are dizzy, and then you practice throwing your right overhand because people have certain faults. Pereira is very often pretty high. He's a killer. He has very good timing. He has a good thing, but he's pretty upright. And he got knocked out a few times himself. So I have a chance to knock him out too.
Wow.
You know.
Wow.
So you
Have you?
you prepare for
Mhm.
contingencies,
Right.
and
Wow.
then but it's very dependent. Some people, they're too late. They're too relaxed for a fight. They're like literally, they're yawning. Okay, then you have to create some, for example, Wim Hof breathing of some or some other very intense breathings to get their adrenaline levels up. Sometimes you have to slap them in the face or make them take a bag of ice and put it in their pants, like just to shock them awake a little bit.
Well,
And so yeah.
well, let me ask you this. Have you seen this entire field of performance psychology and mental training evolve since you began your career? And looking at it, have these changes influenced your coaching methods?
But yeah, when I started, there was a lot of talk about you had some relaxation methods, and they're good. For example, you had progressive muscle relaxation, autogenic training, and they're very good. They're proven, they work, and I still use it in part. But
Mhm.
then like now you have, for example, the physiological side, which is a much more effective way of relaxing your nervous system.
Mhm.
So the research is now also focusing more on people like Andrew Huberman, and other of those science science based specialists are really opening the door to it much easier. There's much more availability to it. There's much more attention to your sleep quality. There's much more attention to nutrition. So
Yeah.
it's becoming much more complete. whereby if you have enough cash flow, you have to hire a bunch of experts that ideally all communicate. That's what happens when you get to like a UFC champion level. Yeah, those guys have budgets like many other athletes. They have to do it a bit differently, and then you have to work with a coach that is not costing you 80 or 100 or 20 200,000 a year. Some guys are asking that kind of price, you know.
Yeah.
It's not for every athlete, you know.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. This landscape of performance psychology is really ever evolving. But you have that ability to adapt. And I've seen just from talking to you and reading everything that you have out there, you found new ways to integrate new methodologies into your coaching. But it just shows your commitment to just finding the best support for your clients, and I like that. But I want to talk about the unique challenges in race car driving because that's you have to have. I mean, your mental has to be sharp when you're going that fast. When you look at the mental demands of a race car driving, how do you tailor your coaching for some of the clients, in particular, your client you have in the FIA World
Yeah.
Cup? Um,
Well, he has a bunch of machines to help him, you know. So in his home gym, he has like these lights,
yeah,
and he has to expand their awareness. Something that's a technique that not a lot of people know. When I had it from hypnosis, where you really try to relax your eye, you focus, and try to expand your awareness, as if there's like this searchlight that really expands as wide as you can.
yes,
Because it's logical, your body works through feedback loops. And so when you're stressed, you get like hyper focus, which is good, for example, if you want to shoot or do some pull. But if you have to fight, well, then you will see his face, but you will not see, for example, if he throws a hook or a roundhouse kick, you will not see it because you're hyper focused. So you have to expand your awareness. Like in race car driving, it's even more
yeah,
important, you know. And so then, then little light goes and he has to touch him. And just based on that, you can really train the reactivity you speak. That's why I started doing a lot of boxing with me too. Boxing has a very high, well, shortens your reaction time significantly. Well, yeah, if you don't react, you get hit in the face. So,
right. Well, I
so
mean, race
that
car. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nico.
yeah. So that's why that's an important thing. Then you have, of course, the relaxation of the the hypnotic techniques and some audio, so that they at night can after the fact can just let go, relax, and refocus. What I do with most of my clients is, for sure, for the people that work in corporate or have the running their own business, they have to get a switch ritual. So it's important to do a morning to prepare, But a lot of people do like 2 hours of morning ritual. Well, yeah, if you're an athlete, you can do that, but not when you're no, you because you're freshest in the morning. No, you want to have intentions, do perhaps a bit of breath work, perhaps an ice bath. You know, if you have the time, do a little bit of training, but after an hour and a half, you need to start working like me, like really focused. And then throughout the day, you can do some relaxation moves. You can do some hypnosis. You can do some other things to make sure that you're not fried at night. Because at night, there's the demands of your family. It's your kids, it's your wife or your husband, you know. So then very often people are so drained because they didn't take like micro meditation throughout the day, micro moments throughout the day to just release a bit, to rejuvenate a little bit. 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes here and there. I'm a big fan of naps. I think everybody should nap. Like in Japan, they have like little cubicles where you can sleep for half an hour. It's fantastic. It's so smart because it's like you have 2 days. You rejuvenate. You're again fresh. You can work almost as good as in the morning. Not completely, but almost as good as in the morning. If it's not too long, of course. You know.
Yes,
But
yes,
then it's like then you have that switch ritual, which is really important, where you can just release all the worries of the day and just consciously say, okay, that's for tomorrow. And then in the beginning it's difficult because a lot of them have like these long lists of to-do lists, as athletes, the same thing, these things I have to focus on, but then I keep repeating it so they don't give their brain the time to rest. So then you think, for example, there is worrying Willy. You give it a stupid name. You give it a stupid name. And with my most strict clients, my clients that are most constricted, I I give them a soap bubble blower, like the little toy that the kids blow bubbles with. And
Right.
I say every time you have a thought that pulls you away from the moment, you take this and you blow. And they hate me for it. I have to negotiate very often 50 minutes to a half an hour before they do it. But it's very powerful because it does two things. First of all, it gives you a ritual to let go of those thoughts and to know, and then say, okay, listen, if you really think you need to think, because sometimes thinking is really important, book 30 minutes to an hour a week. That's your worry hour, where you can just
Yeah.
write down all your worries and you work it out, but pinpointed, focused. So when you do that, then you know, okay, every time the thought is pulling me away from my family, pulling me away from enjoying, pulling me away from eating, pulling me away from the moment, aha, I blow the bubble and let it go to go back to the worry hour. That's one thing. The second thing that does, it's silly. It's like this. It's subconscious realization that you don't have to take everything so serious. Life is a game. It's it's there to be enjoyed, to be played.
Yeah.
Life is a war. I used to believe in life is a war, but then you're gonna go in a war. In a war, you don't give up, and in a war, you don't listen to your body because you have to survive. No, you don't want to survive. You want to thrive. You don't want to get to the subtop. You want to get to the absolute top, and to get to the absolute top, you have to play. You have to enjoy it. And so, and if you don't, then you, in my eyes, are an absolute loser. So there's two types of people that come to the absolute top. You have those that really enjoy it. You can see it in their eyes. They have that sparkle. They are playful. They are joyful. You see, think Richard Branson. This motherfucker. Sometimes he has like, oh, this company doesn't work. I invested 20, 30 million. Okay, bye. Next project. It. But then you see some other multimillionaires or billionaires. They're pathetic. You see it. They're not happy. They're suffering. It's sad.
Yeah.
So to me, that's why my company is called Perform with Pleasure. Now I talk about to your top because YouTube doesn't like the term pleasure,
Yeah.
so they flag me a little bit. But that's what it is.
So we only have about 4 or 5 minutes. I got to get to a few
Oh,
more questions for you. I want to get
good.
all the information out there on you, so we don't have a lot of time. But I'm gonna brush over hypnosis because I had some more questions with hypnosis. But I want to ask you just a few more questions. I mean, with your legacy and the influence you've had in the business of sports performance and training, you've had a diverse career. What do you hope your legacy in sports psychology and coaching will be?
I just want to help people to realize that intensity is what we want. It's the spice of life.
Yes, yes,
Whether it's in business, whether it's in sport, whether it's in relationships, you want that spice. Because then once you overcome it together in a couple, or once you overcome it together with your team that is supporting you, then only then it's worthwhile. I mean, I always say, imagine you're gonna climb the Mount Everest. Two options. One option is you go upstairs, it's so hard, your little pinky toe freezes off, you see dead people there, but finally you're on top and you see the entire world. Or you take a helicopter, you're drinking champagne, you have like some hors d'oeuvre, and then you're there, and then what was gonna feel best? What will make it more meaningful? It's the suffering.
mm,
Without suffering, there is no victory. Without challenge, there is no victory. Then everything becomes blasé, and then you have what a lot of very rich kids have, like they have an empty life because they never had to overcome nothing.
right, right. So Nico, looking ahead, are there any new projects or directions you're excited to explore in performance psychology, or even coaching, or even competing again? What's new? Talk to the audience about what you have going on.
Well, I always work with individuals, which I like and I'm good at. But now, that it's not available for everybody. Not everybody can afford that. So now I'm creating a group program I'm really excited about. It's To Your Top, which has those three elements where, and a few, spicy bonuses, but now we can talk about that later. But yeah, so where we go in 10 weeks, we teach you the absolute essence of what you need to get to your own top, to get to your potential. And then after that, for 3 months, we have follow up. For 3 months, you get access uh, to the community. And then, I want to see people transform in 3 months,
Awesome. Well, you have
which
a
is
website where people can find
yes,
you, and
yes, to your
yeah.
top, to your top. So two, the number two, yourtop.com, and there you can find me, or you can just go Instagram Nico underscore Verresen. That's also easy to contact me there.
And I know that I mean, we squeezed this in. Time flies when you're having a good conversation. I just have to have you back on so we can cover. I missed about at least 3 or 4 questions. I really wanted to get the audience, get your take on for the audience, but um, I figured that it was going to go longer than the allotted time. But we'll just have to get back together again and then do this again.
With all my heart, not a problem. Absolutely.
Do you have any last words you want to leave with the audience?
Yeah,
Anything you'd like to share?
yeah. Start to tell yourself, I love stress. And when you really start to feel this, when you really start to realize this, you will change your entire life. I promise you.
Awesome. Well, I want you to hold on and don't leave. I'm gonna move you off the screen, but I'm gonna come and have a few words with you. I'm gonna close it out. But Nico, I really, really appreciate you coming on and just a different perspective for the audience to hear. There are a lot of sports psychologists out there. There are a lot of hypnotists out there, a lot of mindset coaches, but you seem to combine it with performance training and all of the above, and mixed in with counseling. So I think that made you very unique, and that's why I was excited to get you on here. And I want to thank you for just coming on the mental game plan today.
Well, thank you, Jason, for inviting me and allowing me to speak to your audience. It's always fantastic to share beautiful minds.
Awesome. Okay, just hang in there, and I'll be right to you. 1 second. Okay. Wow. That was Nico Verresen. And I may not be pronouncing his name correctly, but I truly apologize. But today's conversation with Nico has been nothing short of enlightening. His journey from a championship athlete to a world-renowned psychologist and a coach, along with his work with legendary figures and world champions, it really provides a roadmap for anyone seeking to unlock their potential. Nico, thank you for sharing your wisdom and experiences to our listeners. And, we need to try to carry forward these lessons that we've learned today, applying the strategies Nico spoke of to our mental game plan for success in all areas of life. And it's rare that you get a gentleman with the combination of skills and experiences that Nico has. But I just want to thank everyone who has listened to the mental game plan, and for the listeners right now. If you want to really, really up your performance, if you want to be the person that can change the trajectory of your life, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a business executive, and just like Nico said, embrace stress, but know how to compartmentalize it. Embrace anxiety, but know how to compartmentalize it. And it's all about how you respond. Responding is the key, and that's where the mental training, the psychological training comes into play. Thank you again for listening to the Mental Game Plan, and we'll see you the next time. Good night.